I remember the way his hand slid up my thigh that night, the way my breath caught in my throat even though I knew I had no business letting him touch me. I remember the heat of his body against mine in the backseat of his truck behind the gym, the sound of my wedding ring clicking against the door when he pulled me closer, and the way the lie rolled off my tongue so easily, as if my marriage meant nothing. I remember how my husband's name was still saved as my everything on my phone while I leaned into another man's mouth as if my vows were just words I once said and forgot. And I remember the moment that changed everything. The moment the truck door fogged up. The moment I sank deeper into a choice I should never have made. The moment I risked everything for a lie. Before I continue, I want to appreciate every single one of you for subscribing to the channel. Your support means everything. A very big thank you to all my new viewers and my returning viewers who are yet to subscribe. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it serves as the fuel and the energy that keeps powering this channel. Make sure you engage and share your thoughts in the comments. I truly love reading how these stories connect with you. My name is Emily. I am a 33-year-old American white woman living in a quiet suburban neighborhood in North Carolina. I have been married to my husband, Mark, for 8 years. He is steady, calm, the kind of man who fixes leaking faucets and kisses my forehead when I am stressed. The kind of man who believes in loyalty down to the bone. The man who ruined everything with me was named Ryan. He was a trainer at the local gym, a little younger, built like trouble wrapped in confidence. I never meant to let him into my life. But temptation has a way of slipping through the smallest cracks, especially when you keep pretending that everything is fine. It started long before the night behind the gym. It began with a slow, quiet distance that I felt growing inside myself. Mark worked long hours, and I convinced myself that I was simply lonely. I filled the silence with excuses, telling myself that emotional hunger was harmless. I met Ryan on a Tuesday afternoon. I had joined a fitness class because I wanted something new in my routine. He walked past me and smiled like he already knew the kind of trouble I was capable of. His confidence was sharp, almost dangerous. Over the next few weeks, our conversations grew longer. First, it was fitness tips. Then it became jokes. Then compliments. Then comments that lingered too long in the air, comments that I should never have smiled at, but I did. I kept telling myself it was innocent. I was lying even then. I remember the exact moment everything shifted. I was wiping sweat from my face when he came up behind me, reached out, and adjusted my posture with both hands. His palms pressed into my waist. My breathing changed instantly, and he felt it. He whispered softly, "You feel tense, let go a little." I did. I let go of the line I should never have crossed. I went home that night and hugged Mark tighter than usual. He kissed my forehead, the same way he always did. I felt guilty, but the guilt did not stop me. It only made the desire sharper. A week later, I told Mark that my gym class had been extended. That was the first real lie. It felt small. It felt harmless. Lies always feel that way at the start. But the truth was that Ryan had asked me to stay after class. When the gym emptied out and the lights dimmed, he leaned against the wall with that confident smirk and waited. We talked. We flirted. We crossed lines with our words before our bodies ever caught up. He told me that he felt the spark between us. I told him I felt it too. That was when I should have run. Instead, I stayed. The affair did not begin in a bedroom. It began in the back seat of his truck behind the gym where the air smelled like sweat, adrenaline, and bad decisions. He kissed me first. Hard. Desperate. Confident. I kissed him back with the same hunger that I had denied for weeks. His hands roamed my body while my mind screamed at me to stop, but my body kept moving toward him anyway. Every moment felt dangerous. Every breath felt stolen. Every choice felt like I was shattering something inside myself. And yet, I did not stop. My wedding ring shone under the dim parking lot lights. It did nothing to remind me who I was. I remember the way he whispered my name, the way he touched me like he owned every part of me. I remember wanting something that I had no right to want. I remember losing myself in the moment and betraying the man who loved me more deeply than I deserved. I built the entire night on a lie. And then I built more lies on top of that one. When I got home that night, Mark was sitting on the couch, half asleep, waiting for me. He smiled when I walked in. I kissed him on the cheek, and it felt wrong, so wrong that my stomach twisted. He asked about my extended class. I gave him another lie, smoother than the one before. He believed me. Because that is what good men do. They trust. They love fully. They assume loyalty until they have a reason not to. But I was already drifting away from him, even while standing right in front of him. The worst part was not the guilt. The worst part was how much I wanted more. Ryan was bold, reckless, and exciting in a way that felt addictive. He made me feel wanted in a way that bypassed logic and went straight to desire. The affair did not stay a one-time mistake. It grew into late-night texts. Secret calls. Meetings that I pretended were workout sessions. Moments where I felt alive and dead at the same time. I was living a double life, and the lie became the thread that held both versions of me together. But lies always unravel. One evening, I left my phone charging on the kitchen counter while taking a shower. When I walked out, my heart dropped. Mark was holding it in his hand, his eyebrows drawn together. He said, "Your phone kept lighting up." The notifications seemed constant. I wanted to make sure everything was all right. My entire body froze. He handed me the phone. He did not accuse me. He did not yell. He simply watched me with eyes that looked confused and hurt. A cold wave of fear washed through me. Because I knew the truth. He had not caught me yet. But he felt something. And that feeling was the beginning of the end. I woke up the next morning with a tightness in my chest that felt like a warning. The sunlight was soft, the house was quiet, and Mark was already getting ready for work. He moved slowly, almost cautiously, as if he did not want to disturb something fragile in the air. He kissed my cheek before leaving the bedroom. I felt myself flinch. He noticed. He always noticed. That was the problem. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, knowing that the lie that had once felt thrilling was now becoming a heavy chain around my neck. For the next few days, everything inside the house shifted. Mark tried to remain normal, but I could feel his eyes on me more often. He watched me with a kind of quiet confusion, as if he sensed a distance he could not explain. He asked more questions. He checked in more often during the day. He tried to touch me gently at night, and I felt myself tense up every single time. The guilt was turning into panic. The panic was turning into desperation. But the worst part was that even while drowning in guilt, I still felt the pull of the other man. The lie was not just a secret. It had become an escape, a doorway into a world where nothing felt real but the desire. It surprised me how fast Ryan changed. At first, he was smooth, confident, and easy. But once he had me, his tone shifted. He began asking for more. More time. More attention. More moments alone. He wanted me to text him first thing every morning. He wanted pictures. He wanted updates. He wanted to know when Mark was home and when he was not. He said he needed me. He said he felt connected to me. He said he wanted me in ways that went deeper than the physical. In the beginning, it felt flattering. Dangerous. Exciting. But soon, the excitement turned into pressure that wrapped around me like a tightening rope. He started showing up in places where he knew I would be. The grocery store. The parking lot of my workplace. The coffee shop down the street. Each time, he would smile as if it was a coincidence, but I knew it was not. My emotions became a battlefield. One moment I felt addicted to the way Ryan made me feel. The next moment I felt terrified of how far things had gone. The affair had begun with passion, but now it carried weight, expectation, and danger. Ryan spoke to me in a way that made me feel desired, but he also hinted at jealousy whenever I mentioned Mark. He asked, "Are you ever going to leave him? Do you think about me when you are with him? Do you want something real with me?" Those questions made me feel exposed and confused. I was not planning to leave my marriage. I was not planning to choose him. I was not planning any future with him at all. But the damage had already started, and the deeper I sank, the harder it became to imagine a clean way out. The turning point came one Friday afternoon. Ryan had asked me to meet him behind the gym again. I told Mark that I needed to pick up some new workout gear. That was another lie, smooth and well practiced by then. When I arrived, Ryan seemed different. His energy was off. He looked angry, possessive, impatient. He demanded to know why I had not answered some of his messages the night before. I told him that Mark was home and that I could not. That was when everything inside him shifted. He said, "You act like you belong to him. You act like what we have does not matter. You act like I am just a secret." For the first time, I saw something dark in his eyes. Something controlling. I tried to calm him down, but he continued pushing. Then he said the words that froze me. "Your husband does not deserve you. I found out something about him. I know things." My blood ran cold. I asked him what he meant. He smiled. A slow, twisted smile. He had followed Mark. For several days. He had watched him leave work. He had watched him stop by a hardware store. He had watched him go to a friend's house. He had taken notes about my husband's routine. He said, "I just want to know what I am up against." Up against. As if there was a competition. As if my husband was an obstacle instead of my partner. I felt sick. The man I thought was giving me excitement had crossed into a place that terrified me. This was no longer harmless passion. It was obsession. I went home shaken and silent. Mark noticed immediately. He sat beside me on the couch and placed a hand on my knee. He said, "Emily, something is wrong. I need you to talk to me." I opened my mouth, but the truth refused to come out. I told him I was stressed. I told him work was overwhelming. I told him that I just needed rest. More lies. More poison. Later that night, Mark stepped outside to take out the trash. I felt my pulse spike when I heard his phone buzz inside on the table. It was a message from Ryan. He had sent me a picture. A picture of Mark. Standing outside the hardware store earlier that day. The message said, "Are you sure he is the man you want?" My heart dropped. This was no longer an affair. It was a threat. The unraveling happened 2 days later. I came home from the gym, sweaty and shaken, because I had refused to see Ryan and he had become aggressive about it. When I walked into the house, Mark was sitting at the dining table with my phone placed in front of him. His face was pale. His eyes were red. His hands were trembling. He said, "Emily, I read the messages. All of them." My chest tightened so violently that I almost fell. I tried to speak, but my voice would not come out. He continued. "I trusted you. I believed in you. I believed in us. How long have you been lying to me?" His voice cracked on the word lying. That broke me more than anything. I sat down across from him and confessed. Everything. The messages. The nights I slipped away. The truck behind the gym. I watched the man who loved me break in front of me. Tears filled his eyes, but he did not yell. He did not throw anything. He did not rage. He simply said, "I do not know who you are anymore." Then he stood up, walked past me, grabbed his keys, and left the house without looking back. The sound of the door closing echoed through the entire house like a final judgment. The silence inside the house felt heavier than any sound I could imagine. After Mark walked out, I sat on the living room floor with my hands over my face, shaking so hard that I could barely breathe. The weight of everything I had done settled on me like a storm pressing against my bones. Minutes turned into hours. Hours turned into a night that felt endless. I kept looking at the door, hoping it would open. It did not. I kept glancing at my phone, hoping for a message. There was nothing. Only the echo of the damage I had caused. I knew that my life had changed. Whether I wanted it or not, the truth was out. The lie that I had built everything on had finally collapsed. When the sun came up the next morning, I felt empty and numb. I forced myself out of bed, but my body felt heavy. My eyes were swollen, and my throat burned from crying. I moved around the kitchen slowly, touching things without really seeing them. Every corner of the house reminded me of Mark. The coffee mugs he used. The sweater he always left on the chair. The dent in the couch cushion where he usually sat. The reality of losing him hit me like a fresh wave each time. My phone buzzed. My heart jumped. I grabbed it quickly, hoping it was him. It was not. It was Ryan. The message said, "I heard what happened. You can come to me. I can take care of you." A sharp anger rushed through me. All this time, I thought I was escaping loneliness with him. But now I saw the truth clearly. He had helped destroy the one good thing in my life. I blocked his number immediately. The second I did, a strange mixture of fear and relief washed over me. That afternoon, I forced myself to sit at the dining table, the same place where Mark had confronted me. I placed both hands on the surface, and I whispered to myself that I would not run, not anymore. Running had led me into darkness. I needed to face the reality. I needed to face myself. I took out my journal, something I had not touched in months. I wrote down everything. Every lie. Every moment of weakness. Every choice that led me here. When I finished writing, I realized that what hurt the most was not the affair itself. It was knowing that I had broken a man who had loved me fully, unconditionally, and quietly. I knew I needed to apologize, but I told myself to give him space. A day passed. Then 2. Then 3. By the 4th day, my heart felt raw. By the 5th day, I realized that silence was its own form of punishment. On the 6th evening, as I sat on the couch staring at the blank television screen, I heard a soft knock on the front door. My breath caught. I stood up slowly, afraid to hope, afraid to move. When I opened the door, my body nearly gave out. It was Mark. He looked tired. His eyes were still red, and I could see the weight of sleepless nights on his face. But he was standing there. That alone was enough to make my lips tremble. He asked softly, "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked past me but did not sit down. He stood in the middle of the living room, rubbing the back of his neck the way he always did when he was overwhelmed. The air felt thick between us. He finally spoke. He said, "I needed time. I needed to breathe. I needed to understand what happened." I nodded slowly, unable to speak without crying. He continued. "I kept asking myself what I did wrong. I kept wondering why I was not enough for you." A tear slid down my cheek. I whispered that he had been more than enough. He had been everything. He stared at the floor for a moment, then looked up at me. His voice was steady but full of pain. He said, "You hurt me deeply. You broke something inside of me that I never thought would break. But I came back because I need to hear the truth from you. Not excuses. Not stories. I need the truth." So, I gave him the truth. All of it. Every detail. Every emotion. Every moment I had crossed lines that should never have been crossed. I watched tears gather in his eyes again, but he did not interrupt me. He listened, even when it hurt him. When I finished, my body felt weak from the release. He sank into a chair and covered his face with his hands. I stood across from him, shaking, waiting for whatever came next. Minutes passed. Finally, he lifted his head. He said slowly, "I still love you." I covered my mouth as a sob escaped. He continued, "I am not ready to forget what happened. I am not sure how long it will take to trust you again. But I know this. I do not want to lose our marriage." Those words broke something open inside me. I sank to my knees in front of him. I apologized over and over again. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in a quiet, broken way that came from the deepest part of my soul. He placed his hands on my shoulders. He said, "If we are going to heal, we must be honest. No more lies. No more secrets. You must tell me if you feel lonely. You must speak before it ever gets this far again." I nodded repeatedly because I meant it. I meant every word. He pulled me close and rested his forehead against mine. That simple touch made me cry harder than any moment before. It felt like mercy. It felt like grace. It felt like love choosing to stay even when it had every reason to walk away forever. The next few weeks were not perfect. There were awkward moments. There were heavy silences. There were nights when Mark woke up and stared at the ceiling, trying to understand why the person he loved had betrayed him. I did not run from those moments anymore. I sat with him. I listened to his questions. I answered with honesty, even when it made my chest tighten. We went to counseling. We talked deeply, openly, painfully. He told me about his fear of losing me. I told him about the emptiness I had felt and how I should have spoken instead of straying. I blocked Ryan completely and permanently. I changed my number. I avoided the gym where the affair happened. Not because Mark forced me to, but because I wanted to protect what we were rebuilding. Slowly. Very slowly. We began to reconnect. One afternoon, weeks later, my phone buzzed with a number I did not recognize. The message said, "Emily, just talk to me. You owe me that." It was Ryan. He had found a way around the block. I stared at the message with a cold, steady calm I never had before. Then I walked straight to Mark and showed it to him. I said, "I choose us." Mark hesitated for a moment, searching my eyes for sincerity. I held his gaze without fear. He took the phone from my hand, deleted the message, and said, "We face him together if he tries again." At that moment, I knew that something powerful had shifted between us. The trust was not fully healed, but it was growing again. And this time, I was protecting it with everything I had. I risked everything for a lie. A moment of passion nearly destroyed my entire world. But love, real love, chose to stay. Not because I deserved it, but because Mark believed in the possibility of healing. The road ahead was not perfect, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long time, I felt grateful for something I almost lost forever.